You're listening to the Career Plus Life Catch-Up, episode number 98. Welcome to the Career Plus Life Catch-Up, a show anchored in reality to help you create a balanced life where you enjoy both your work and your life, because you don't have to choose. I'm your host, Cecile Ferry, a corporate executive turned coach and working mom. This is your place for insights, advice, and tools to optimize your career direction, balance, and confidence. I'm so glad you're here. Let's get into it. Hello, my beautiful friend. I hope you're well this week. I have a very exciting episode for you today. Maybe not the easiest to listen to, but such an important one. So I'm actually recording this in advance, and as you're listening, I'm probably somewhere away in France eating a lot of croissant. Very cliche, but true. Oh yes, and also at some point I'm going to Disneyland with my daughter. It's her dream. That's her gift for her 10th birthday. And I'm secretly really worried about some of the rides because I don't know you, but I hate this kind of stuff. So I know it's going to be fun and joyful, but maybe some of you will be relating to this, and maybe I should have asked for some tips ahead of time, but I will report back. Anyhow, this is what I'm up to right now, and I hope your month of August is going well. And I wanted to talk today about the totally not sexy topic, but super important, of self-sabotage. This came to me because I was talking to my best friend recently, and we had this situation where the week prior she had said to me she had a couple of days off with no child with her, and she was like, I'm gonna work on this. Like, if she has this creative project, that's amazing. That's way outside of comfort zone, but that she's meant to do. Right? And she'd been postponing it, but ahead of that week, she said to me, yeah, I'll be doing it. It's the perfect time for it. And then fast forward, we were talking during the weekend, and she was busy decluttering her house. She was condoing the place. She was loving it. She was in a great space. And that was awesome. And then the weekend passed, and then I remember what she had said before. And so the next opportunity, I was talking to her, I said, by the way, I said, didn't you tell me you were going to focus on your creative project during that time? I'm like, I remember you were doing something completely different. And then she went, oh my God, you are right. I didn't even realize that I bypassed it, that I didn't do it. I was meaning to do that. And she said, somehow I haven't done it, and I got pulled into something else. And it was completely like a shock to her. And so that's like a blatant, very easy way to spot self-sabotage. Not always, it's that clear. But that is what prompted me to come here, because we then had a great conversation on self-sabotage and why she's doing it. Because that's the thing, very often, like, it's very insidious, it's very sneaky, and it's quite invisible. A lot of the self-sabotage comes from unconscious patterns of our mind. So chances are you might be saying to me right now, no, I don't do any self-sabotage, and maybe myself included. But with what we're going to discuss today, you might realize that you actually are. Because when you self-sabotage, you usually don't know you're doing it unless someone then points it out, like what I did for my friend. So today, I really want to shed some light on that, because I feel like self-sabotage is a blind spot. It's that dark corner and literally unconscious. And so if we can just shed a big torch on it and go, hey, right, this is it. Like, I can see I'm doing it. That's the first point here. I really want to talk about the awareness, and I want to show you which forms it takes, because I want you to really think, I've been doing this. Then we're going to talk about how to overcome it. But that is very much, it's not a one size fits all. I can't just do it in a reasonably short podcast episode, or we'll be here for hours, because there's so many different ways of treating it, quote unquote, based on the cause. Nevertheless, I'm going to give you some pointers. And overall, for the topic of self-sabotage, may I recommend the excellent book by Brianna Wiest called The Mountain Is You. It's a quick, short little book, easy to read. I think she may have done some videos on it as well, some podcasts. But highly recommend, if this podcast episode talks to you, you go and read her book, because I'm going to borrow some of the key lines and concepts. But if you want more detail, more information, go and check out the book. All right, are we ready to talk about self-sabotage and really uncovering it and be ready to really show up for ourselves? I hope you are. I am too. Let's get into it. Okay, so first section here, I want to talk about how self-sabotage shows up. And there are lots of different ways, so bear with me. So the first way it can show up is actually, I found a useful way, and it's in resisting. So resistance, that's different from procrastination. Resistance is we actually don't do the thing that we are supposed to do. But I think we kind of see it and we feel it. It just feels like, oh, I just don't really want to do it. It's like we're about to jump and we're like, no. So I'm saying this actually can be really useful, because maybe we may not be ready to do it. Maybe there is an issue with what we're trying to do. So actually self-sabotage here can be like a way to look into it and be like, oh, why is this happening? So I give you an example. I was doing that about a month ago. I organized a workshop with a friend, colleague of mine who is a naturopath and health and wellness coach. And she was coming into town here, and we decided to do a joint thing together. And that went all great. It was all fun and games, and we planned all of it. And I did the artwork for the invitation, all of that. She approved it. And then I was to send the invitation, and then boom, resistance really hit me, because suddenly I didn't want to do it. My whole being was resisting doing it. So I asked myself, why am I doing it? Actually, even before that, I just told myself, we're doing it regardless, Cecile. We're like, okay, we're doing that, because my friend was waiting on me to do it. So I had no other option, but it didn't feel good. But I could see I was about to self-sabotage. I just did do it. I had a list of people I had to send it through, and I went one by one, and I pushed myself to hit send and send and send and send. And I did it. And then afterwards, I asked myself, why did it feel hard? And I realized it's because it was putting me outside of my comfort zone. In that invitation, I was sharing some of the new development, the new part of my what I'll call my professional identity that I'm going to share with you when I'm back from my trip. So across September, October, you will hear all about it. But that was kind of me outing myself, and that's why I had resistance around it. So resistance is literally like you're about to do it, but you don't feel safe to do it, or something blocks you. Number 2, a big one, is procrastination. So we all know that, and we are pretty much putting it off, or we're just doing small little tasks. We're doing busy work. We actually feel like we've got all those other things, but we're filling the gaps so that we don't have to do what we set out to do. Or we're being easily distracted. We're like, oh, what's that over there? Oh, yeah. We're checking our emails before doing it, and then we fall down the rabbit hole there. We find something and it's all very valid. There's work to do on the back of it. So we would prefer to do other things than the thing we're supposed to do. And that's procrastination. Another way it manifests is through upper limiting. That is a concept I may have spoken about. It's from Gail Hendricks in his book, The Big Leap, which is the best personal development book of all time. If you're going to read one, read that one. Again, it's a small book. It's very easy to read. I recommend it often to my clients, and I have never come across someone that hasn't loved it. It was probably one of the first that I read too. Really, really good. It talks about upper limiting and how it is about, when you're trying to increase your level of success or money or happiness, that you hit a level because you are afraid beyond it. So it's saying there's an amount of good stuff in our life that we're comfortable with, and too much of a good thing, we actually start derailing ourselves. So you will see a lot of what I talk about today, that self-sabotage, is linked to that psychological safety. And it's actually the way to address it. I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, heads up, is understanding that we are feeling afraid about something underneath, that there is a need for safety that we need to address. We're not just like born self-sabotagers. And we're not wrong, we're not faulty, we don't have a defect. It's a mechanism, often a protection mechanism. So the right way to go about it is, what's sitting underneath? So sitting underneath upper limiting is, if I start being too successful or too good, or if I get all of that, something bad's going to happen to me. Okay, so that's one way you can look and read more about it in the book. Number 4 is constantly changing or not choosing. So that I love that one because it's a sneaky one. I see it in my clients because you see the patterns. And I've even seen it through some of my friends, some of the business owners that I follow. One day they talk about this, and then 3 weeks later they talk about that, and they're launching a new program, and then it keeps changing. They can't pick a focus. Or some clients have got all those interests and they say they can't pick. And that was me many, many moons ago. So when you can't choose, it's often like a way you keep yourself off the hook, because if you had to choose, if you actually chose, then you have to stick with it and do it and hopefully succeed at it. It's much easier to be like, but I like this and I like this and I like that. And likewise, like constantly changing, it's like you never give yourself the means to see something through completion and through success. So any of that kind of frantic change, chaotic, erratic, just watch. And some people justify that's how they are as people. I don't believe so. I think it's just a trait of self-sabotage because we don't have, therefore, to fully commit and follow up and follow through what we say we're going to do. And again, we justify it. But there's a better offer, or I got a new ID, or whatever. So look at the places where you're constantly changing your mind, constantly kind of changing gears, or you are like saying, I can't choose. So I'm still getting through my list of how self-sabotage shows up. Another big one, like procrastination. Another P, perfectionism, the 2 Ps. So we will just feel like we can't do something unless we have all the perfect steps or it's done exceptionally well. So we will never be ready. We will never launch the thing. We will never do it. And the answer here, as you probably know, is to do it anyway. Getting it done, getting it shipped. The next one is getting stuck emotionally. I think that's one we don't talk enough about. And I have in the podcast on my 6 lessons from 2023 recently, because I got aware of that. I talk about being stuck in a freeze response, or maybe it was in another episode prior. Excuse me, I can't quite remember. But it was in some recent episode. And when we stay in an emotional state where we're not processing what's been happening to us and we have those emotions kind of stuck in us, like we can be in that limbo kind of state where we have low drive, low energy, and we might try and we may have goals and say we're going to do it, and then we don't. It's because our body, our state is not conducive for that. And so when we get stuck emotionally, and sometimes it can be quite over a long period of time, it can be months, it can be years, then, someone can say, go and do it. And you'll be like, yeah, and you can't do it. It's kind of not your fault. You're just not in the right condition. Your energy isn't geared towards it. So especially if you identify with the freeze response and all the symptoms that go under that. So there is no point kind of giving you a kick up the bum and say, go and do it. What you need there is a lot of self-care and emotional processing and potentially healing. Okay. So that can really play. So if you feel quite blah a lot, that is probably a big contributor to you not getting things done, and it will create self-sabotage. Another one that a lot of us do, all of us very smart, educated women, is justifying. We have the excuses. We won't say it's excuses. To us, it's just valid reasons. But actually, as a coach, I'll say to you, it's excuses. Because actually, any reason can be an excuse when you choose something over something else. And in that case, we are prioritizing those reasons over doing the thing. It's a very smart way of self-sabotaging. And I do this a lot. And I see it because when I'm talking to my friends, when I'm like, oh, I'm not doing that yet because blah, blah, blah. I'm just like catching myself. Why am I becauseing myself? And I've got all the right reasons. And I'm like, hang on. Something's sitting under there. Another big one for self-sabotage is when we're actually forcing ourselves to do something that deep down we don't really want to do. And that is sneaky. So we will try, but the reason why we're not doing it is not because we are not driven or not motivated. It's because we probably have adopted a goal that's not ours. Or we think we should be doing it, or we don't know what we want to do and we pick that. And that is really important information. And ask yourself, do I actually want to do this? Do I actually want this in my life? And be completely raw and honest with yourself. Because it can be that you actually don't want this. And the best thing you can do for yourself is admitting it. Then we have two big fears that tend to make us self-sabotage. They are the fear of failing and the fear of success. Right opposite, same result. So we're afraid of falling on our faces and we're not doing the thing. And sometimes we can go all the way to really dark scenarios where like this is going to happen and this and this and that. Like we only see the downside. And we don't do it. And by the way, it's actually failing not doing it in my book. Like my friend, if she's not doing her creative project, like that will be failure because she has talent, she has potential, and she knows it's part of her life path. And yes, she has things in the way, but not doing it is failing as much as she's probably afraid of failing by doing it. So look at that from that angle. Like actually the fear of failing is there no matter what, if you do it or if you don't. And then the fear of success is the opposite. It's actually we're like, oh my God, if this actually takes off, if this actually works, like I'm not going to be able to handle it. It's very similar to the upper limit. So therefore I'm going to stay small because that's more comfortable. Or we may have the guilt, which is similar to upper limit. It's like, well, other people don't have it as much, I'm already pretty good. I don't need that, right? So see those very insidious mental mechanisms where you be like keeping yourself from doing it because then you don't fail or then you don't succeed, which is seen as unsafe. And then finally, the last category is unhealthy habits. So we put ourselves into circumstances and places where those external things will impede our ability to get something done. So we can be like, but it's those things, right? But we actually self-sabotage by sticking around with those things. What are they? Things like clutter, mess at home, on your desk, all of that. It's actually protecting you from achieving anything, as weird as this sounds. Also, it can be people. So you might know that some people are bad for you, but you're like, oh yeah, but I can't focus, I can't do this and that because I've got these people that want to see me or they want to talk to me and I got to help them. Or like, be careful because you feel like it's other people, but you actually choose to interact, to give them your time and attention. And those people can really drag you down and again, put you in that emotional state I mentioned. And so they're bad habits for you. And by continuing to be involved with those people, you self-sabotage because they allow you. They're a very good reason for you not to go after your own goals and dreams, if that makes sense. And finally, you're very busy. So you cram your calendar. I used to do that a lot. This is fear, my friend, wearing really fancy pajamas. It is just being like, okay, now I can't do it this way because I've got all those things. I still do that in my business. I'll be like, I need a break for this. I need a massage because my body needs it. And then I've got this appointment, yada, yada. Before I know it, I feel my week and I'm like, oh, well, and I've got a client or two. Oh, I've got no other time to do this thing that's on my list of goals, like creating a website, launching an offer, writing some content. I'll be like, oh, well, I just can't this week. I can't, right? Sounds so legit. So that's how I want to wrap it up about the causes is self-sabotage. It shows up in different forms and you don't usually see it. But how do you know? It's because you actually see the bloody thing is not getting done. So that's the compass. If you can ask yourself, is this something I am not quite getting done? Is it a goal? Something I've had on my list and somehow it's not happened? And the somehow, I've just gone through all the potential scenarios and you can probably allocate it somewhere or in maybe different places amongst those. So, but the end result is it's not getting done. That is usually self-sabotage. And what is important is you understand the root cause, what it is telling you, because all those things I have described are linked to a need underneath that is usually not met. It's not a faulty programming, it's not a faulty brain, and it's not a personality trait, unfortunately. And it's not something you just take a pill and it goes away. You need to understand why you're doing it. Okay, now we're going to move into how to change it. And as I said in the intro, I can't cover this in depth. I'm only going to give you some pointers, 4 pointers actually. They're quite general, but they will give you the main direction, okay? And then you can read the book, The Mountain is You, and that will get more into detail. Number 1, and that is the easiest way to overcome it if things are not running too deep with you, so to speak. And it is accountability. It's taking responsibility. It's saying, okay, big girl's pants on. I know I'm doing this. It's going to stop now. I'm going to get it done. And that's what I did with my friend. Like, I am accountable. I've actually asked her to send me one thing that will force her to do the first step. And so you need a clear goal and you need a when. Okay, or enlist someone that's going to keep you on target. So like when I had to send the invite for my workshop, I was accountable to somebody else and I had to do it. Okay, so I say it's the easiest way to overcome it if it doesn't run too deep. Otherwise, you will see, like, if you try to commit and have accountability, you're not going to do it. And I have clients that have done that. As a coach, they are accountable to me what they say they're going to do. And sometimes we get to the next session and they have not done it. And this is a very interesting conversation to have that I have with them with a lot of love and compassion, because it shows to me there's something else that we need to work on. They're not just, people that don't follow through or they're not committed, right? There's probably something holding them back. So you may not be there, but maybe you are, and it's just about let's go and do it. What is number 2, which is deeper work, is to be aware of your emotions, especially when you're in the moment, just prior to you doing the thing that you said you were going to do. How are you feeling and what are you doing? It may be that you're reaching out for the Nutella jar, or like my friend she would have been like, ooh, I'm not doing that. And then she thought about something else to do. So if you can be a witness of your mind and your body at that point, look at what emotions are happening, what is going through your mind, and be aware. You can be like, I am doing it. Like when I didn't want to send those text messages, I could raise awareness. I could be like, okay, something is going on here. I really feel like resistance. Okay, so you can't overcome something unless you admit it, eye to eye, like that. And then you've got a choice. You can be like, well, do I need more care and nurturing? And I'm going to delay this, but I'll get back to it. Or, in my case, I decided to override it and to use my mind and use my prefrontal cortex to decide and overrun my limbic brain, my inner critic that was she's scared. Okay? So it's about managing your mind and having resilience. I just strapped myself up and I went through my list and I used resilience. I'm like, let's go. We will be okay. Let's just send the text. And I was like, push through. You need that, the self-sabotage. As I say, there is no little pill and it's not going to feel great very often because you're going outside your comfort zone. And within that awareness of emotion, managing your mind, it may be all the way down to healing some trauma. That's why I say it's not one size fits all. Let's say, for instance, you had a really terrible case of burnout. That happens. I was too, right? And I see some clients doing some self-sabotage in job search and they have no idea why, but it's because there is trauma that is coming from a past, work redundancy or burnout. And so they don't feel safe and their body will self-sabotage because it's saying, no, we're not going back there. So you got to heal that trauma. So that doesn't apply for everyone, but that's part of it. Number 3, another way to really add to this overcoming self-sabotage is rewiring your brain. So I touched on it just before with having resilience, pushing through. So here this is about really exploring, going outside your comfort zone, and it's about building new neural pathways that are currently not there. And that's what we call neuroplasticity. So it's doing new things and it's doing things you haven't done before or that don't feel right. And I always say lead with curiosity here. For me, I just lead because I use my Aries drive. I'm like, let's go. I just can see that something doesn't feel good, but then I'll just have I won't say no pity for myself. That's not true. But I'll be like, I'm still doing it. And I'm going to push myself. So I use resilience. Some people can just use curiosity and be like, what if I was wrong? What if this turns out good? What if, there is more that I don't know that I'm going to uncover? And why not? I'm open to what's going to happen. So that's where you rewire your brain. And that's when you no longer self-sabotage. Because self-sabotaging is because you are not opening your brain to those new experiences. So you got to do that, and it's growth, and that's why you've got those ideas. But is it going to be harmful for you? No. Actually, this is going to expand your brain, but it's not natural, but it can be done. And the 4th thing I want to say here in overcoming self-sabotage is to really love yourself and nurture yourself through the process. So I was just saying, I just push myself, but I actually don't mean that in a non-loving way with myself. I don't think you should whip yourself into getting something done, but you can be like your best supportive coach or encouragement. Be like, okay, let's do it. Let's do it, Cecile. We're going to do it. You're going to be so great. You may not know all the answers. Just that best friend that'll be there and just be supporting you, carrying you through it. So you got to be that for yourself. You got to be there for yourself. If you've got a habit of being quite self-critical, having quite negative self-talk, beating yourself up for not getting things done or not progressing, this is not going to help you beat self-sabotage. You need to approach it with love, not hate, right? I'm being extreme, but you get the picture. So how can you be supportive of yourself to be like, I know this doesn't feel great. I was with my friend. I was not critical of her. I actually just laughed and I said, it's funny you didn't do it, right? And then I just offer support and compassion for her. And that's what you need to do for yourself. All right, my friends. So this was my little lesson for the day on self-sabotage. So to take away with you are all the different ways self-sabotage can show up, which are very much all the time internal obstacles. I know I have mentioned some external like people or chaos at home, but it's internal as in you choose to stay involved with that. So that's the beauty of it, and that's what Brianna called her book, The Mountain Is You, because you have control over it, but you need to see it. And then you need to see why you are doing it. Because as I said all along here today, is you're doing it for a valid reason, and usually it's a feeling of not feeling safe, or then what will happen if you do this thing. So you need a lot of love and care and compassion, and often you need support, my friend. This is very hard to do and self-manage on your own. So a coach is really good for you, a really good friend, a therapist. And we do that all the time in career coaching and in life coaching. I can see the self-sabotage. I can see the blind spot. And I point it out in a way you won't even see. I won't call it self-sabotage. I'll put you on the track and you will see it. And then usually because you guys are so smart, you'll be like, and then you automatically correct. But you need someone to be there externally to point it out to you. Because as I say, it just hides in the corner. And so the way to get rid of self-sabotage, or the way to overcome it, is through transformation. It's through rewiring. This isn't just like apply a little band-aid. No, there is something holding you back, and you need to get to that something, and you need to work on it and remove it to be through the other way. So a really good episode also to complement today is number 87 that you can go and check out. It's on being in your discomfort zone, because I talk about being aware of those emotions and having resilience and pushing through. So that's an important piece of today. But I hope this has been really eye-opening for you, and you might be seeing where in your life you're currently not making the progress that you want, and why that is, and how it is that you're stopping yourself from doing it, whichever of those manifestations that are covered today. And then that you can decide, either you're going to get some accountability, or you're going to manage your mind and emotions differently. You're going to look at rewiring your brain, and you're going to provide yourself some self-love. So I do know that all those things together will provide the right basis for you to move past it. It's a bit of a beast. It is challenging. It is difficult. So take it easy, take it slow, and just don't judge yourself too harshly, and just go one step at a time. But get some help. Reach out for some coaching. I will be back for appointments from September. And it's probably the time, right? When you've tried by yourself, there comes a point where you do need the help. Like my friend, she's going to reach out to someone in the field that can then help her and take her through the creative project, because she really wants to see it through. And that's okay. There is no shame in getting some help, because then imagine by the end of the year, you will be in a different place. You will no longer be in that cycle of comfort and justification, or doing other things instead of what it is that you want, and basically having the same results over and over and wondering why it's not changing. So I've given you the tools, the keys to turn today, and now it's up to you, my friend. So I'm going to love you and leave you on that note, and I will be speaking with you when I return in September. All the best to you until then, and I'll speak with you soon. Bye everyone. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to find out more information, you can visit my website at careercatchup.com. There you will find blog articles, free resources, a self-study course for your career direction, and ways to work with me. It's at careercatchup.com. I hope to continue to connect with you and support you. Talk to you soon.